ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। अब now we will continue with a little bit of understanding of where we are heading, but we have only one day tomorrow, full day. So therefore, I want to start a little bit of moving into the Kriya, some understanding of why we are doing it, what we are doing, and so on. So, in the process of Kriya, one part of Kriya, this is not the beginning of Kriya, but I am explaining because tomorrow when you do the Kriya, Kramena, step by step, you will come to a place where Chakra Dharana is mentioned. Well, it's already there in YouTube, Chakra Dharana, but it's different when I am talking about it. So, for that I need to explain certain things, why we do Chakra Dharana. It's part of Kriya. You see the diagram? Oh, that is my face. Huh? Yeah, you see the picture there? It's a symbolic representation of the Ida and the Pingala. The right energy channel is the Pingala, the left energy channel is the Ida, and the middle one is the Sushumna, Nadi. And then you will see at the bottom there is a place where there is Lam written. That is your, anybody? Mooladhara. What does Mooladhara mean? Moola, root. Adhar, foundation. Right? So, Mooladhara means root, foundation. That's where the entire energy which manifests this entire universe, not only the Bhumi, Bhuloka, Bhuvaloka, Swagalu, other planets, everything. That energy, after having done its work, resides in silence. This is the Mooladhara. So it's the Moola. It's from that root that everything has come. And it resides according to Yoga Tantra in the form of a Bindu, a dot. Not Bindi, Bindu, it is a dot. Now if you look carefully, the dot, even geometrically, well, there is a lot of literature by Pythagoras and so on. But in Sankhya Shastra we have a lot of literature on energy and Prakriti, Purusha, Bindu, everything. Now, if you see the basic structure, which is the smallest you can do, is a dot. Bindu. Even if you need a straight line, look carefully, a straight line is a continuation of Bindus. And then from the straight line, if the straight line bends down, then it becomes like this. And then when it goes back and meets, you get a triangle. So triangle is the basic closed structure that we have, even before a square. So therefore, since this is the source of all the energy, which we can call Parashakti, Mukhya Prana, I don't want to use a word which is very popular, because it's all over the internet, Kula Kundali, Kundalini and so on. Okay. In Tantra it's called Kula Kundali. And among one particular section of Tantra, no, Tantra has got a bad name, so don't worry, it's not that. It's called Devata. In its ferocious aspect, among the Dasha Mahavidyas, it is Bhadrakali. and its Shanta Devata in its auspicious, quiet aspect. It is Rajarajeshwari, Tripura Sundari. It's all put together in one Bindu. So you can imagine how much energy is there in a Bindu. You know, when an atom bomb bursts, you know, the source of that energy is just a small electron and a proton. Just somebody wonders how from a small Bindu the whole universe. Tremendous energies are stored in the Bindu, which is why the yogis insist on ekagrata, one-pointedness. When your mind becomes one-pointed, all the different lines are absorbed into the Bindu. And from the Bindu, when it expands, the whole universe is yours. This is the Bindu. And it is in the Mooladhara. And there is a sound lump. Now, what does this Mooladhara section, stage, represent? It represents Prakriti. Means this solid, three-dimensional world that we know through our five senses, Panchendriyas. The solid world, the three-dimensional world, right? A three-dimensional object, if it has to change its location, you have to actually physically move it. Up, down, sideways, or front and back. So this is Prakriti. And it is represented by the simplest solid that you can have, with equal angles, called the cube. Now, the three-dimensional or the two-dimensional representation of a cube is a square. Which is why if you see any of the yantras, people make without knowing what the mechanism is all about. You will see first there is a square with 4 gates to enter. This is the Mooladhara. For us, it is all inside, it is not outside. And in the middle is the simplest structure in which sits the supreme energy in the form of a dot, a triangle. Here, in this case, with the point down and base up. And in the middle is a Bindu. But the Bindu now is in the solid, physical, earthly state. So our awareness is now in the solid, earthly, Prakriti state. The attempt is to raise your awareness from solid, physical, three-dimensional world to something subtler and subtler and subtler. Now, if you look at the Mooladhara, it is, while its Shakti is resting there quietly after doing all its work. Now, when you apply the ancient Upanishadic mantra to Tantra, the mantra which describes something else will appear as something else. For instance, Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamaduchyate. The origin is completeness, Purna, Purnamada. The whole energy that produces the universe is Purna. Purnamidam, this is also Purna because that energy which has produced this diverse phenomenon is also living inside this diverse phenomenon. So that Purnata is still maintained. Purnasya Purnamathaya, when this Purna, this world, is taken out from that Purna which is the origin, Purnameva Vashishyate, the Purna alone remains. So, this Bindu, even though it is now resting and in the form of a tiny Bindu, still is Purna. Still remains Purna after all the manifestations have happened because it is constant, it will not change. Energy is constant, it only changes from one form to another. Well, Einstein said that beautifully in physics, of course. So this is the tremendous energy which is in a way at our disposal. Now, even while in the Mooladhara, in its unawakened normal state, when a new being is produced in this world, physical being, its energies from the Mooladhara that are active. When the energy flows downwards to the reproductive organs, a new child is produced. Right? What is it? Nothing. It's from something which Shiva offers into the yoni of Parvati, Shakti, just 2 dots or drops, and from that comes this whole universe of a speaking, talking, laughing, thinking human being. Which means in that bindu there is tremendous energy to produce even a human being, physically, biologically. We are saying if that can be garnered and used for producing a spiritual being, how wonderful it would be. So, therefore, instead of allowing it to flow down, the yogi tries to raise his awareness from the gross to the subtle, from the solid to subtler states, so that this energy then finally goes to the highest level you see there, which is Om Hari, which is written there on the top, which is the Sahasrara. So, the Mooladhara and the Lam written there represent, about the Bijaksharas there we will discuss when we do the Kriya, not now. Represents solid. See the next center, slightly above. When your awareness is raised to the practice of Kriya or Mantra Japa or a combination of the two, then your awareness is shifted from solid to something subtler, which is a liquid. You know, for a solid, if you want to put this watch from here, but if it is a liquid, you just have to tilt it, will flow up. Which means it is the next subtle state of mind represented by the Apas Tattva, which means the watery element. And that is centered in the center called the Swadhisthana. Swadhisthana, one's own center. And this is also the center of imagination, Sankalpa. We human beings are endowed with one divine quality which animals do not possess. Animals are very intelligent, mind you. Sometimes when I look at my dog, I think he's more intelligent than me. But they don't have the quality of Sankalpa, meaning visualizing. And all human activity, including physical, happens with visualization in some form or the other. And the higher sphere, the visualization becomes more subtle. That quality, which is possessed by the divine, is also given to us, Sankalpa. Said the Brahma makes a Sankalpa, this whole universe. And then he makes a Sankalpa of Pralaya and the whole thing is gone. In the same way, we build a house, which first we have a Sankalpa, then we call the architect, and then he goes about doing it. Then the workers come. But where did it start? With my Sankalpa. Then it becomes a reality. And if I have a Sankalpa that this is wrong, again I break it all down and build a new house. Where did it start and where did it disappear? Sankalpa. Very important. So, the yogis say that this Sankalpa is a very powerful tool which can be used for various things. Not for hurting anybody. But now, therefore, from the Mooladhara, whose Bijakshara is Lam, I'll explain the Bijakshara tomorrow. We come to the Swadhisthana. Here it is a square and a triangle. The Swadhisthana is a crescent moon. Now this crescent moon as a symbol is very interesting. You see Shiva's head, there is a crescent moon, Soma Shekhara. The moon is also called Soma. And soma is that which was produced in ancient times and imbibed by the Vedic rishis to go to higher. It's not LSD, please. Don't yeah. Or heroin or any of, or not even a single malt or. So, so this symbol of the moon is also the symbol of sankalpa, imagination. And in Greek, the moon is, Latin and Greek, the moon is called Luna. Lunar calendar, Chandravamsha. Krishna belonged to the Chandravamsha. Rama belonged to the Raghuvamsha, which is sun. So this is a beautiful symbol, powerful. You'll also see it on Durga's head, this symbol. Knowing the potency, it was used in a different direction, but it is there. Chandra, moon, Soma. And Shiva is supposed to be Somaswara, who enjoys the bliss of imbibing the Soma. And Durga and Kali are also representations of this. Therefore, it is a very important center, the Swadhisthana. It's also the center which the yogi uses to leave his physical body, Stula Sharira, and travel in the Shushma. It's also the place very close to the umbilical cord that connects the baby with the mother. Almost. Okay, so now we have come to the watery state. Now to turn that that awareness into Vayu and Akasha and so forth, awareness, you need tremendous tapas. Tapas, the word means heat. You need Agni for that. Which is why in ancient times they did a lot of Agni homas. Agni, the fire, is a very important deity after Indra. Indra, the Indras, the five senses, in the ancient Vedic rituals. But when they did rituals, they also knew what was happening inside. So Agni center is the Manipura, where you see a triangle with its point up and red colored. And what is the Bijakshara? Ram. Ram. So, here what's happened is, your awareness has now come, has come up to the liquid moving state. The fire of tapas is applied. This is also called the fire of Nachiketas. If you read the Kathopanishad, you'll see this. Fire has an important quality. One fire is enough to light any number of fires. And fire always burns upwards. You can light a fire with your summit down, with your wood down, but it will always go up. And fire destroys everything. In this case, destroys all the obstacles to go on to the higher levels of existence. So Agni is a living being worshipped in the Manipura chakra with the Bijakshara Ram. The Greek word for Agni is Igne. Ignition comes from that. Igne. Without ignition, your car also won't start. So, there your awareness now has become heated by this. All the dross has been removed. And it goes to a subtler level of awareness, which is in the Anahat, which we call also the Hridaya. The Anahat is represented by two triangles, equilateral triangles put together, which means here, after being chastened and purified by the fire sacrifice, the human being at this stage of awareness has become a combination of the earth and the higher beings. Nature and fire have come together, and now we have a purified human being whose awareness is purified. Anahat. And Anahat, therefore, the tattva is Vayu. When you heat water, what happens? It becomes vapor. The subtler level, it's a symbol, of course, subtler level. And the Bijakshara is Yam. Then the next center described there. Basically, it's to lift your, in Kriya, when you do Chakra Dharana, lift your awareness from the gross to the subtle, and you use the Bijaksharas to ignite and to take it further up. And the next one is the Vishuddhi. The Vishuddhi center is represented by an oval, indigo, deep blue, violet, like a gemstone. And the Bijakshara is Hum or Hum, whichever you. Well, the Tibetans call it Hum. The actual word is Sanskrit is Hum. Like the Germans would have also called it Hum, because the German language doesn't recognize any pronunciation other than what is written. So, this is the Hum, the Vishuddhi. So what is the element there? What we call the tattvas. The tattva of Vishuddhi is Akasha, which means our awareness has now, in that stage, been raised from the gross to the subtle, to Apas, to Agni, through Agni, into Vayu, and now Akasha. Now Akasha, normally we use the word for the sky, Akash. But Akasha is not the sky. Akasha means the primordial, undifferentiated substance from which this entire universe has emerged in differentiated form. I don't know if you get what. Imagine all this being in one flux of undifferentiated, subtle matter. Then it differentiates itself into Vayu, Agni, things like that. Before that, in complete purity, primordial Prakriti, in its undifferentiated state, so we can put it in a different way, a state where there is only one frequency, and then it adapts itself and changes to different frequencies. And these are the different things that you see. This is Akasha. And it's in the throat, actually here, but represented here. So, as you bring your awareness from the gross to the subtle, finally it comes to the Vishuddhi. So in Kriya we have Vishuddhi Kriya and so on. And then from Vishuddhi we go to the Ajna. Ajna is called Bhrumadhya, which means the center between the eyebrows. Actually, while we show it here, it's actually deep inside. If you draw a line from here straight inside, and draw a line from here straight down from the middle of the crown of your head, where they meet would be where the Ajna is actually. Although externally it is represented with Bhrumadhya, middle of the eyebrows. Now this center is even beyond the stage of Akasha. There is only one more step for awareness to purify itself until it touches what we call Shivam. Well, you can call it Narayana if you like, that it makes no difference. And the Sahasrara. Sahasrara means 1,000-petaled lotus. 1,000-petaled lotus in Sanskrit, Sahasrara doesn't mean exactly 1,000, it means many, splendid, innumerable. Sahasra Kodi. Now, that is the highest awareness that a human being can reach at this stage of our evolution. There may be beings in other areas who might have gone beyond that, but this is where we can reach at the moment. And that center is where awareness remains as Shivam. Now Shivam, in one meaning it means auspiciousness. Another meaning for Shivam is Ananda, Anantam Anandam Brahma, unending bliss. This is the Sahasrara. And in the Nirvana Shataka, when Adi Shankara touched the Sahasrara, he sang Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. I am of the nature of Chit, bliss, of consciousness and bliss. I am really, my true form is consciousness and bliss. I am Shivam, I am Shivam. This is the stage where the yogi finally reaches in Sahasrara. But while I say all this, you must note that a very important center, without which the gateway towards the Sahasrara will not open, is the Hridaya. Because that is where the integration takes place. Like the frog becoming an amphibian, while existing in water and still existing on earth, this is the center. So it is also the center of feeling. Although all feelings come from the brain, but when I say, look, you say, have a heart, right? You don't say have a brain. And when I say me, normally I point out to you. I don't say this is a very important place. People miss that because we're always looking up there. There is something here which is very important. When this is open, then there is no need to ask. The gates are open anyway. Although in Kriya we meditate on both centers. So this is the diagram we have, which tomorrow when you do Chakradharana, it will be put on again. And then I'll explain to you the Bijaksharas and so on and so forth. This comes at the fourth Kriya, not the first Kriya. But I wanted to explain it to you to understand what it means, this Chakradharana. And it is done after all the pranayam and so on is over. Got it? Okay. Now coming to the practice of Kriya. Couple of preliminary things I will tell you because we won't get much time tomorrow. First, what deity you worship, what path you follow has no impact on Kriya. In fact, Kriya has impact on all this. You may be a Vaishnava. In fact, one of our mantras in the Kriya lineage, which we finally called Thokar Kriya, which will not be taught, of course, not required now, is the mantra is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. While much of the Kriya rest goes on Shiva and Hrim and Aksha and so on and so forth. So there is no such differentiation here. On the subject, once I remember, I was very young, of course, wandering with Babaji, Maheshwaranath Babaji. And we were sitting in Rishikesh on the way to Nilkant in Moni Baba's cave. And whenever Babaji went to some place, even though he was not known worldwide, because he had no internet, some really learned sadhus used to find out where he was and come to discuss, talk with him, take blessings. So, a group of Vaishnava sadhus, they're called Bairagis. You've seen Bairagis? Matted hair. You'll see Akal Kotkar Maharaj is like that. Here. Chandan. They're called Bairagis. A whole set of them with their leader had come, with their head of the mutt. And on the other hand, there were a group of Shaivites who had come. You know how the Shaivites do? The Vaishnavas do this, the Shaivite. This is Chandan, this is ashes. So all had come. It was quite an impressive gathering. Some of them had big Rudrakshas and matted hair, and I was enjoying. You know, at 20, 21, you enjoy these things. The thing was, they came and they said Pranam, and they said Narayana Hari, and they said Namah Shivaya and all that, and then they sat down. And they said, we have come to you to, there's a dispute between us going on. Tarka is going on. And then Babaji first said, look, I am not an expert in Tarka Shastra. No, Babaji. आप जो कहेंगे वो हम समझ जाएंगे. तो ठीक है. तो बैठिए. We sat down. There was a dispute about whether the Supreme Being is Narayana or Shiva. It goes on even today. So sad. The Supreme Being is Narayana or is it Shiva? Babaji said, Acha. He said in Hindi, but I will tell you in English. He said, at the moment, what do you worship, each of you? They said, we do mostly Pada Sevana. And one said, well, we worship the Linga. So Babaji said, what is a Linga? Symbol. Okay. The real meaning of the word Linga in Sanskrit is a symbol. And the other guy said, we worship Padukas of Narayana, Pada Sevanam, which is part of the Bhakti literature. And then he asked, has any one of you, you're all good people, you're great, have you seen Shiva or have you seen Vishnu? No, we haven't, but we have heard. He said, continue, why don't you continue the Pada Sevana? Till you see face to face the Supreme Being. Then you can decide whether he is putting ashes this way or putting the... Why are you fighting now? Let's go there and figure this out. They accepted. They said, but when they left, they said still one said Narayana, the other said Shiva. It doesn't matter. India is such a... This is a wondrous thing about this country. That everything is integrated into one. This you will not get. Either somebody will say this or they will say that, but here everything. 1,000 years ago, the Rig Veda declares, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vedanti. The truth is one, the wise may call it by different names. You will not find it anywhere. So anyway, so why did I come to this subject? Huh? No. Right. So therefore Shivam is complete unalloyed bliss and all pervasiveness, which fortunately for us is present in every jiva as the Antaryami. This is the aim of Kriya, to touch that. So what is its relevance? We are doing breathing exercises, we are doing japa, we are doing Bijaksharas, some postures. Why? Because as I explained to you yesterday, the human body has innumerable nadis. Among the innumerable nadis, 3 are important for us. These are the 3 represented in the Trishul. One is the left Ida Nadi, Pingala Nadi, the central whole rod called Sushumna Nadi. And the idea is, in doing Kriya, first is to slow down your breathing. Because the slower your breathing becomes, the greater your attention. Plus, also physically, life is measured by the number of breaths. And have you seen a whale? A whale? A whale is not a fish. Do you know that? It's a mammal. Although it lives in water, it's a mammal. It doesn't have any gills to breathe oxygen from the water. So it has to breathe air from the outside. So it takes in one deep breath, goes inside. After some 14 days or something, it comes, surfaces and breathes out. You can see the spout, the water coming out as it breathes. And then it takes one breath and goes inside. You know how long the whale lives? More than 100 years. Why? Because its breathing rate is very slow. The little mosquito that you see must be breathing 100 times in a minute. Tick, 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 tick. It dies in 2 days. We human beings, we have a certain normal breathing rhythm. Going by that, we live for so many years. If we can slow it down, and if you still love this world, sometimes good to go off early. Slow your breath. Slowing your breath, people think you should fill your body. Slowing your breath and keeping it clear helps you physically, mentally, and ultimately spiritually. So Kriya, there are techniques by which the pranic energy from all the other nadis is brought to the Ida and Pingala, and then to the Muladhara, and then this Mukhya Prana is made to ascend through the Sushumna to the Sahasrara. So what you're doing basically is to raise your awareness up from the solid to the subtler and subtler till reaches that which is all pervasive and which is full of bliss. And this is what everybody is searching indirectly. Who is there who is not searching for happiness or bliss? We think we'll get through this or that or something. You can try sometime. While doing that, try to also figure out maybe there is a way here to go within and find the ultimate satisfaction that you seek. So, Kriya is basically meant to balance your prana, purify your inner being, raise your awareness from the gross to the subtle, and finally reach the culmination which is called Samadhi, where you realize that you had committed a mistake long ago, thinking that this body is me, while actually it's something else. Once you touch that, you can still live with this body. You can still work on this earth. Jiji Visheta Shatam Samaha, for 100 years you can work, as the Upanishad says, and still not be touched by the vagaries of life. Na karma lipyate nare. And that is the ideal way to live. So Kriya is therefore given to all people, not only to sannyasis, also people who live in this world, so that they can live in this world, same time be absorbed in the inner, and when necessary they can discard what they don't want, when necessary. This is the whole science of Kriya Prana. Now, there is one thing that every Kriya practitioner should do before starting the practice of Kriya. As for us, the Moola Guru in Kriya is Mahavatar Baba. Sri Guru Babaji. We consider Sri Guru Babaji also as Adinath, and not different from the Supreme Shiva, as Yogeshwar, in the form of Yogeshwar. And therefore, it is required that before you start the practice of Kriya, you do the Guru Mantra. Very important. When you do the Guru Mantra, you have linked yourself to Babaji. And when you have linked yourself to Babaji, then the rest of the Kriya will go smooth. You will be able to do the rest. So the Guru Mantra, I have already put it on YouTube, but I don't know if I have given the Bijakshara, but I have put it on YouTube, because long time people come to learn Kriya. I used to make them come again and again for 1 year, 2 years before giving the Guru Mantra. Then I found that this is becoming too much. So many people are there, how to, So I put it on YouTube. Technology should be used if it is for a good purpose. So you will find it there. But when I give you the mantra now, this is not YouTube, iTube. So then you can consider that you have been initiated into the mantra of the Guru Mantra. And I will teach you how to do the Guru Mantra as was taught to me. Same thing. The Guru Mantra is very simple. If you recite with me, together with me once, so that you get the feel of it and don't forget it, because when you chant, it has to be chanted in your mind, quietly, not loudly. Well, if you are in a room and nobody else is there, you can also chant loudly. Not in public. So will you chant with me now? So that I want you to exactly get it. It's very simple. Om, Hrim, Shri, Gurubhyo, Namaha. Or one small voice shouting Om. Om, say that again. Om, Hrim, Shri, Gurubhyo, Namaha. Nama or Namaha, you can add. This is the Guru Mantra. So now I am going to tell you, because tomorrow when we come back, we are going to sit down and start the Kriya. The first thing is Guru Mantra. Guru Mantra can also be chanted other times when you are traveling. So simple. And if you are in a situation where you find that there is no other help and you need some help, don't do silly things like you're sitting in a hotel and somebody giving you sambar with the rice, and the sambar should have been better. Om, Hrim, Shri. Don't do the silly thing. Or my bus is not going fast enough. Om, Hrim, Shri. Seriously, if you are in a spot when you don't know what to do, please definitely do use the Guru Mantra. Okay? But primarily it's meant for your spiritual evolution, not for these little things. So, how do you do it? Before you start Kriya, do the Guru Mantra. Don't do anything now, just listen to me. Visualize in your heart center, something like that, a white lotus. We have become technologically savvy, right? I have to describe the white lotus. Some people will say, should it be like this or should it be like... Somebody said, I did, but one petal went away. What can I do? Or it fell down. So here, you have a white lotus. Visualize that in your Hridaya. Anahat. Don't do now. We'll start when you... And keep a pair of padukas. Well, there are silver padukas here, but you can keep any padukas. Wood, silver, doesn't matter. It's a symbol of the Supreme Teacher. And who is the Supreme Teacher? The Supreme Brahman. Represented here in our case by Mahavatar Babaji. Brahmanandam Paramasugadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gaganasadarsham Tattvamasyaadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalam Achalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarehitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. That is the Supreme Guru, represented by the Padukas. Because nobody can capture a face of the Supreme Being. Nearest you can go is probably think of Shiva sitting, or a smiling Krishna with his flute. But then when you do that, the Gopikas also will come, so watch out, careful. So, have the white lotus, put the Padukas there. While primarily we think they are Babaji's Padukas, please consider that they are the Padukas of all the great spiritual beings from the beginning of time till today. And touch your hand, close your eyes, bend your head, don't touch the Padukas with all humility and with a little bit of bhakti. Chant the Guru Mantra, Om Hrim Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Slowly, no need to hurry. Don't count. Chant for full 10 minutes or 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. Right? And then begin the rest of the Kriya which you will learn tomorrow. So now for 5 minutes can we do the Guru Mantra only. Familiarize yourself with it so that tomorrow we start.